And like maybe a sexist, racist person is not going to fucking come to see a woman with purple hair. You know what I mean? Like that.
Take a moment to breathe, grab a beverage or two. We got professional guests with lots of stories for you. So take a seat right here and join us on Careers Over Beers.
Are we starting right now?
We're starting right now.
Holy crap, okay. Well, then shouldn't we?
Unless you don't want to. Let's
do it.
Let's do it, yeah. So, welcome to Careers Over Beers, everybody. We already started talking a little bit. We're drinking a Woo Shock Wheat by Wichita Brewing Company. Shout out to them. I'm a big fan of their pizza and their beers. And you requested something, like we said, between 5 and 6, so this is a little less. But do you like wheat beers?
I do.
You do?
I like all beers.
Well, cheers.
Cheers.
Not bad. Not
Good
bad.
stuff.
Nothing crazy, nothing hoppy, just right.
Yes.
And it's cold.
Yes.
Well, we didn't even talk about what your name is or where you work yet, so.
Yes, so Heather Greenberg. I'm a doctor. I tell that to my kids all the time. I finally graduated. Not that kind of doctor, I tell them, because then they want me to like fix their stuff. But
Yep.
I'm like, I fix different things.
Yours is just as important, though. You fix the mind.
I don't know if I fix the mind, but I think I walk with people and I help them like fix it, you know?
Yeah.
I went to school for a long time, and I definitely am an expert in the things that I'm passionate about, but I'm not the expert on the person sitting across from me, you know? They are.
Right.
So it's just, I'm there with them, and we just do the work together. That's like how I like to think about it a little bit. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, I'm hoping, I was thinking about this before I came up here, that I don't have any weird tics or, signals that I give off.
Darn.
I'm going to be sitting down with a doctor, a real psychologist. Wait, what if she thinks I'm a psychopath, like in the middle of the interview, and you just bail?
No,
right?
I definitely wouldn't do that. I did have my husband come with me because I came to Colwich, Kansas. I've never been here.
Welcome.
Thank you. I mean, it was a beautiful drive up or over. But yeah, I think that as a woman, I got to be worried about meeting with
some random guy that just does this weird podcast where he makes you drink.
Alone in a dark building.
Alone in a dark studio, in a bar setting.
But I don't know. I mean, I've definitely heard things from clients that made me, I've never been worried for like my safety, probably more for their safety.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if you were a psychopath, you probably wouldn't tell me, and it would probably take me a while to catch on, because they can be very good at like hiding that.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
You think of like Ted Bundy or someone that's really good at manipulating and making you think they're normal.
Yes, or BTK, because that's all I've heard about since I moved to Kansas
Are you
a
serious?
year ago. I had never heard of him before, and then one of my friends who is in the field, Molly, just loved to tell me the whole story. Which, that's scary.
Yeah.
But growing up.
Sometimes it's kind of weird that people are a little bit proud to have him around here. He's our local serial killer.
Local serial killer. I mean, and I don't know if it was so much pride, but it was just like she remembers growing up while people were afraid.
Yeah.
And so, that was just wild to kind of, I'm sure people get murdered a lot more in LA. I don't really know. I'm assuming there's more people there.
Yeah, I guess you should tell the people that first.
Oh, yes. Wait, so like, am I looking at you? Are there cameras I should be looking at, or is it this?
Oh, there's cameras over here. But you're talking to me, unless you want to speak directly to the people on the YouTubes.
On the YouTubes. Hi, YouTubes. Hi, Eddie. Hi, Lainey. Those are my kids. Hi, Mom. I totally forgot what you asked.
Well, you're from LA.
Oh, yes. So born and raised Southern California, LA County, and moved out here actually for the last step in my my doctoral schooling, which is internship. And it's kind of like this big old thing called like the match, and all types of doctors do it, where you interview with a lot of places, and then you rank them and they rank you, and then at the end of the day you get matched somewhere. And I was matched in Newton, Kansas at Prairie View, and moved my whole family, husband, kids, dog, across the country to come here. And yeah, ended up staying because we loved it, which I guess a lot of people say when they come to Kansas.
Yeah, I get to experience that. I've met people, I'm sort of in the military circle, and I've met people that came from all over the United States, and every one of them says they love it. The only people that I hear that say they don't like Wichita are people that grew up in Wichita. And they don't realize how good they really have it, because the cost of living is so great.
Oh my God.
There's no traffic.
Oh my God.
You can get anywhere in Wichita, east side, west side, wherever, in 25 minutes, no matter what. So yeah, I'm a big fan. I love
Those
it.
are my talking points. People are like, why would you want to be here? I'm like, the drive when I was doing Wichita to Newton is like 25 miles. When I was doing 25 miles in LA, it was like an hour and a half there and an hour and a half back, like sitting, like just like a parking lot on the freeway.
Couldn't do it.
And it was just, like my rage, frustration, just like heart rate. Like it was just not healthy.
That's so bad for people, and it's such a normal thing now.
Yeah.
People think that's a norm, but it's just such a new thing too. And humans have never lived like that. Now all of a
top
sudden,
of each other, just
yeah. That's one nice thing about Kansas is that we're so spread out. I mean, we have land for days, you know.
And it's like beautiful too. Like the drive that I would do every morning there and back, like, yeah, it was maybe 25, 30 minutes, but no traffic, 2-lane highway, just, cruise control the whole way. And just like, especially like coming home from work, it's a good decompression because, we see a lot of people that are struggling, a lot of people that, have lots of different types of issues. And so it could be, you don't want to bring that home with you, especially when you have, like I have 2 toddlers and a husband and a dog and a cat. And the reason why I say that is because it's very easy to like carry that with you and then like put it on other people, know? So that drive was very like my decompression of like, I'm not going to take that with me. And if I'm mad, I'm going to be aware of it before going in because then little things can like, you know what I mean? You don't want it to be the straw that breaks the camel's back, right?
Right,
Like my kids are going to cry and scream because they're kids and toddlers and that's what they do. And if I'm already upset, at least I can be aware of that.
That's a little mind trick then you have, something to help you out.
I think, and that's what I talk about with my clients too. It's kind of like we all have vulnerabilities in our life. Like we didn't eat enough or sleep enough or we're sick or we just got in a fight with someone. And like if we can bring awareness to what we're struggling with, then like we're still struggling, but the other things maybe that would have caught us off guard, like they talk about hangry. It's like kind of the idea of hangry, right? Like you just get angry easier when you're hungry.
Right.
So yeah, I do a lot of like mindfulness and awareness with my clients. I'm kind of like, if this is what's going on and we see this pattern, let's like, be more aware of it and see what we can do to get ahead of it kind of thing.
So you're trying to kind of just get the full picture on what's going on and kind of figure out because like you said, hangry, somebody might be yelling, cussing at the car next to them because they're pissed off because they're hungry. Whereas if they're nice and full and they're driving home, they wouldn't be doing that at all. And it's just the thing that the underlying cause, you're not just pissed off that day. There's something else going on.
Yeah. And I think, like that same scenario maybe wouldn't have had that same impact if we had been full and hungry and happy, right?
Right.
So yeah, I try to bring awareness to that and also like validation at the same time, like, hey, it's okay that you yell and screamed and cursed at that car because we're all human and we all do it. And shaming yourself and then being like pissed off at yourself at the end of the day, that's just going to make it worse for you, right? So then I try to bring self-compassion in as well, which people are like, they don't like self-compassion because it's really hard to be nice to ourselves. It's really easy for me to like say wonderful things about you and my family and my, my friends, but when we have to talk to ourselves, like we talk the meanest to ourselves than we would to any person.
Isn't that odd? What's behind that? What drives that? Is there something that's just instinct, like an instinct inside of humans that cause us to?
That's a good question. I mean, I think a lot of, I don't know if it's so much instinct, but I think it does have a lot to do with like self-compassion, there's a lot of research behind it, and there's some really big people in the field that could talk like for days on it. But what I think it really is sometimes we have these tapes in our head of how maybe we were spoken to as a child or expectations that we had. Or that others had for us. And so like when we were a kid, maybe we weren't met with kindness, like, do your homework, do this, like you didn't do it good enough, blah, blah, blah. And our parents loved us, the intent probably wasn't to be mean. They probably wanted us to succeed and to do better than they did, but it comes off like we then create these stories in ourselves like, I need to do better, I need to work harder, I'm not good enough if I did, you know what I mean? And then it becomes our inner voice a little bit.
Right.
And I'm sure that there are other reasons why that could happen as well, but a lot of what I see when I talk to clients is like, okay, these were messages that we got as we were a kid, or from society just in general, right? Like there's these messages that we get.
So would you say that majority of your patients that are disturbed or depressed or have some real mental problems going on, would you say most of those stems back to their childhood?
I think that's a loaded question. I think like the first thing I would say is I would never use the word disturbed for a client. That's my favorite band actually, but like I don't.
Hey, the Sound of Silence cover.
Oh man, that
Amazing.
is a good fucking
That dude's
cover.
voice is insane, isn't it?
He's like classically trained, David Draymond.
Oh yeah.
I named my first cat after him actually.
Did you?
Yes, I did.
Super fan.
Yeah, I love Disturbed, but yeah, I think it's more. I don't know if I would say disturbed, but yeah, struggling, anxiety, depression, whatever it is that's bringing them in. I think a lot of times we can like trace it back to, things.
Something that happened to him as a child or young adult.
Yeah. And like I said, maybe not even so much that, but, just society at large and the world that we live in, it's hard. And our parents were doing the best they can, but then their parents parented a certain way, right? So then we talk about like intergenerational trauma,
right?
Where it's like, oh, well, my parents maybe hit me because they wanted me to do better. I don't know. I don't hit my kids.
Carry on though, right?
Yes, exactly. Like then it's going to proliferate throughout, and those people probably love their children very much, and that was maybe all they had. That's all they knew. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so a lot of the work that I do actually is kind of like, once I know better, I'm going to do better. And so I'll have a lot of clients come in like, oh, I'm a new parent. I want to break that cycle. I want to be a different person, But honestly, like there's a large variety in kind of the stuff like that people will come in wanted to talk about.
Sure.
And and that makes it, I'm sure, just like your job, like it's kind of a roller coaster. It's like something different every time.
And events happen in life too that when you're older, it's not always something probably in your childhood. But one interesting perspective that I heard one time was somebody told me that child abuse is sort of like being a vampire. And whether it's sexual abuse or whether it's like trauma or physical abuse, because usually the people that do that stuff that was done to them. And then the kids do that when they grow older too. And it's like a vampire. It's like you're bitten and now all of a sudden you're the monster.
Yeah.
And if you look at people like I know, especially in the Middle East, pedophilia is rampant over there, and they abuse all these kids, and then they grow up to be abusers themselves, and it just keeps repeating over and over and over. So it makes you wonder how many people, like you said, generationally just carries on, and they treat their kids like that. They treat their kids like that.
Yeah. I don't know much about the Middle East and kind of all of that, but I think like in general we can say that this is a pattern. Like if I'm burping.
Happens to all of us.
If we are raised a certain way, that's all we kind of know, unless you're like someone who then goes and seeks out something different, like, okay, I went to school for a really fucking long time to, learn a lot of different ways. And so, I love my mom. She loves me. There's, ways that she raised me that I will not, I'm not going to, I have like all this other knowledge and data from all of my schooling and the research that I've read. My mom raised a fucking amazing person. Like I'm a strong, resilient woman. I'm smart. I fucking graduated from grad school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And once we know different things, we try and do better, I think. And that's like, I really feel like we all have, like, that's how I try to go into every room. Like there is nobody irredeemable. There is no one, that has done something so bad that we can't, I have to have that compassion because we don't fucking know what they went through.
Right.
And how can I help you? I don't know. That's like, I just rambled into a dead end there, but.
No, that's okay. I guess, let me ask you, how did you get into this in the first place? What made you want to take this path towards mental health?
So I would say I was a nurse before I was a psychologist.
RN?
LVN, which I think is an LPN out here. There's like a different.
I'm not sure what that is, but
it's a licensed. I could basically do everything that RN could do except for like 2 things.
Okay.
Not important, but I was going back to school for my RN, and while I was going to school and working at the same time, and I had worked at like, doctor's offices. I had done all that, but at the end of it, because of like the schedule was better, I worked like in-home healthcare. So I was like with one family, 8 hours a day, got very close. You spend all this time with someone, you talk to them, you learn about them, all of these things. And so I'm like concurrently going to school and taking all the fucking prerequisites that you have to take, to
Right.
get where you need to go. One of them is Psych 101, and I'm like, oh my God, I fucking love it. It's so cool. Like the human brain, we are just like wild.
Unbelievable.
We just, the weirdest things, right? And there's such cool stuff out there. So that was like really fascinating. And at the end of the day, it was kind of like the relationship that I had with my client. Like, yes, I was helping them. Like I was changing diapers, I was giving meds, I was feeding, I was doing all of these things, but it was really like the relationship, the talking, that was really like where I felt I was helping the most. That connection, and it's what I enjoyed. It seemed to be what they enjoyed as well. And I was like, let's just do it. Like, U-turn, might as well go back to school. I was already doing it, so yeah.
That's cool. Yeah.
I did it.
You found your niche, right?
Yeah.
You found it.
Yeah.
And that's so important too, the connection, like you said. I mean, you can help people so much physically, but the connection, the human connection, I was going to actually touch base on that with you too.
Yeah.
About like social media, our online presence today. How often do people actually sit down and talk like me and you are right now? I mean, it's less and less, I feel like. And usually it's over a Zoom call, or maybe it's over text.
Yeah.
But that's got to take a toll on our mental health as well as a world now, right? That everything is behind a screen. You're seeing insults and likes from people virtually,
Mm-hmm.
You're not getting any real like one-on-one social cues.
Yeah, that's big. I think it's complicated because you're right. Like, people can be fucking mean when they're anonymous, right?
Yeah.
And that brings out like the bullies and the trolls and all of that online. And obviously there's lots of research out there about how like children nowadays are starting to have cell phones, be around, exposed to social media, and just like have Instagrams at like
Scary.
10 or something,
That's insane.
And there's a lot of bad things that can happen because of that. And at the same time, like, even though we don't have that one-on-one connection like we have right now, I think that people maybe that were, maybe socially awkward or very anxious about like being, talking to others, and that was a real barrier, to creating friendships and getting to know people.
Right.
And so I think like there's pros and cons to both of it. Like, I know that there are people that like really thrive and like have community that they didn't have before, and I know that there are like some really unhealthy communities out
That's
there.
True. That's true. I mean, there are some. Everybody finds their freak group online, and that's a good thing sometimes.
Yeah.
It can be a bad thing though.
Could be totally, yeah.
But kids are already fucking mean,
Mm-hmm.
and that's natural though. Like the way that I've always viewed that is it's a natural thing for kids to be mean to each other because they're learning what's good and what's not. And if you call somebody, like if I said that you were a piece of shit or you're a bitch or something to somebody, and I'm 10, and they cry or they have a reaction that's terrible, and you learn from that, and you're like, oh shit, like that didn't make them feel good.
Yeah.
When it's all behind a screen, you don't get any of that, and you can just be as mean as you want, right?
Yeah.
You don't have any idea what's going on behind the other side of that screen.
Yeah.
And
I think
so,
that is why it's easy to
be
so mean when you're anonymous. Yeah.
Because if you say something mean to somebody and they like break down from that, if I said something mean to you right now, I would feel bad because of how you felt, right? And you learn from that, unless you're a psycho.
Yeah.
But this is a new thing that we're doing now where you don't get any of that. You can just say whatever you want and there's no consequence, really.
Yeah, it is. It's scary. I mean, and that's why I think it's so important to, like, it goes back to the home, right? Like, how are we teaching our children to be kind? Are we teaching, that it's not nice? Like, we have a cat and a dog. It's like, you can't just, like, play with the dog how you want to play with the dog.
Right,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? And hopefully those messages are then, leaking into at school and things like that. Or, so yeah, I don't know. I think it's really hard. I think that kids can be really mean, especially if they're I think there's a power thing to it too. Like if you are treated unkindly at home, maybe, and then you go and do that because that's what you learned, and then you kind of feel powerful.
Right.
Like then maybe you want to continue that because you don't feel powerful at home, but you now feel powerful when you're bullying someone else or something. So I think it's so complicated, right? There's
so many factors at play.
Yeah.
So many factors. It's a tough time to be a kid right now, I think.
I know. It's a scary world out there. I was like, why did I bring 2 kids into this world? I mean, I love them, and it's going to be amazing to watch them grow up, and it's fucking scary out there.
It is, yeah,
So,
it is.
yeah.
I go back and forth on it. I mean, there's times where I feel like an old man, and I'm like, this new generation, they're just a bunch of snowflakes. But then at the same time, I think about, well, if you look back at like the 70s, 80s, 90s in school, people were fucking awful to each other. If you were any different than the norm, you were beat the shit out of,
Yeah.
So that wasn't good either. So maybe it is a good thing in the direction that we're going in certain aspects, but I don't know. It's a tough little thing to play because there's so many factors at play, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. But I do think that a lot of online and social media presence is what's causing a lot of depression and stuff in people today.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a really great, what was it called? I think it was called like Childhood 2.0 or something, and it was on like Prime. It was like a documentary that was like free on Prime or something like that. And yeah, they talk a lot about that, just how different things are. Like when we were kids, it was kind of like you would play outside when the lights turned on, like, oh, it's dark, time to come home, and all of that. And so parents nowadays still say that to their kids, like, be careful when you're outside, like, don't trust strangers, don't take candy from strangers, don't go in their van, that kind of stuff. And what this documentary was saying was like, yeah, except for it's actually, you just gave your kid a phone and they're in their bedroom by themselves on fucking Instagram, and you don't know what you've just like let into your home, basically. Like it's actually much more dangerous online than it is like out and about in the world. Like that has changed. And like I said, I don't want to like scare the shit out of people. Like there are good things about the internet and it does help us connect. I think we have to be like critical about what we're doing and how we're using the internet. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like there's good and bad ways
there
to
is,
do it.
It's a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
There's great things with the internet.
Yeah.
I mean, holy shit. So much more is better now because of the internet and what it's done. So I don't know. It's weird. I always go back and forth on that.
Yeah.
It's like old school versus new school.
Yeah.
I have heard, though, from teachers that I know that they think kids are a lot nicer today than they used to be. So that's a good move, if that's true.
I fucking hope so.
That's just what I've heard. So
that would make me feel a little bit better, because it's scary thinking about my kids, like people being mean to them.
I know.
Or them being mean to someone else. Like I'm like, what the fuck? Where did that come from? Like you just never know. I think like it's
I think we all did things when we were kids though, and we're like, oh God, why did we do that?
Yeah.
Why did we do that?
I used to eat like. This is weird. Maybe you're going to edit this out. That's fine. Like, I remember in kindergarten, like, doing there was, like, a turkey, and they put glue on it, and you put, like, frosted flakes, and it was supposed to be, like, and then they were all put up on the wall, and I remember walking by it every day and being like, burp, and, like, eating, like, frosted flakes. We do weird stuff as kids. Who knows, like, what is going on? Yeah. What's going on in their brains? Like,
yeah, and just the way we treated teachers too, we always thought they were out to get us, and I was kind of a rebel in school, and looking back, I'm like, they were just doing their job. They didn't hate you because they gave you all your homework. They just
wanted to teach you things.
They just wanted to teach you things. They were sweet people, and you made their life harder that day, Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. So, what are some of the weirdest disorders that you have come across?
Weirdest disorders.
I mean, do you diagnose people with disorders?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we use the DSM. I almost said DS9 because I'm also a Star Trek fan. So
you're not a Star Wars fan?
I have seen it. And I liked it. And I know a lot of people, but I like grew up watching Star Trek, and I love Star Trek. And now there's a bunch of Star Trek out that's like really, really cool too. So yeah, whatever. I don't know if it's the same or different, but sci-fi and fantasy for all.
For some reason, people like to pick a team on that too.
I know.
Either Star Trek or Star Wars.
I'm just
why?
like, I'm a lover. Just love what you love. That's
exactly.
okay.
You don't have to team up with everything in life.
But we do. Like, we polarize as people.
I know. It's awful.
Yeah.
That's part of our problem right now too, is that everybody wants to pick a team. It's like, why?
For sure.
Do you like wheat beers or IPAs? Oh, what's wrong with you?
I like both. They're both good. Okay, so we use the DSM. It's the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. It's like, yay big. It's ginormous, and it has all the, major depressive disorder, general anxiety, social anxiety, panic disorder, and it has like all of that. So yeah, when I meet with a client for the first time, we'll do like an intake, and we'll talk about like, what are you struggling with? What do you think I can help you with? Like, yeah, like what brought you in basically. Right. And typically that is, feelings of sadness or being anxious or like, this thing happened and I really want to talk about it. And like, while I'm talking with them, I'm also kind of just like sifting through everything that they're saying and like, okay, these are like check marking boxes for like maybe a certain thing that they're struggling with. And because this is the world we live in, basically, I then have to diagnose someone with some sort of disorder because their insurance company won't pay for therapy unless it is actually like written on the note that this is what they have. They want to know
it's a real deal.
Yeah.
Can I ask you something real quick?
Sure.
Is everybody coming to you? Is it voluntary?
Oh, yeah.
Voluntarily?
I mean, I have worked inpatient, like at an inpatient hospital where somebody sometimes, like if they have thoughts of wanting to hurt themselves or other people, they might be involuntarily put in, or they can put themselves in. So I have done that work as well, but currently I'm working outpatient. So people are reaching out to me or reaching out to their insurance company and saying, who takes my insurance,
Gotcha.
And so, yeah.
Okay.
So currently outpatient, and yeah, like unless you have the money and you're privileged enough to pay out of pocket, and it's really fucking expensive for therapy. Yeah. And it's not because I want it to be expensive. It's because I have a family. You know what I mean? Like and I have $300,000 debt from fucking grad school. You know what I mean? Like money. Yeah.
It's a whole new can of worms.
Yeah. It's we could definitely talk about that.
You're giving them health care, so they're paying for a service, and that's going to cost a lot of money, unfortunately, because you're a professional.
Yes. But it's hard because I also went into the field because I want to help people. And so, you know what I mean? There's that little bit of like, ooh, that feels icky for me too. And
you could get a job though with like the government or with like I don't even know. I mean, I'm sure there's positions for you guys all over the place where you can deal with patients, like whether they're in a prison or in a hospital or something like that.
You totally can. And I think the thing at the end of the day is like, where are you going to thrive, right? Like I worked community mental health. That's what I was doing for my internship, and I loved it. I was seeing a lot of people that like maybe wouldn't have, like in more rural areas, that maybe wouldn't have received services, maybe couldn't have afforded it. And I love that. But when you work in not only where I work, there was nothing wrong with that, but it's like you're working within a system at that point, and so you're not your own boss. You don't have a lot of say. You have to do things certain ways. And for me, like, that's not the kind of work I want to do. Like, I want to do all of those things and help all those people, but have a little bit more like flexibility or, get paid a little bit better or, and that feels selfish, but it's also not selfish.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah,
you went through a lot of work and hardship to get to where you're at. I mean, you want it to pay off. Mm-hmm. Did you need another beer, or are you good?
I have like one more sip, so yeah, I'll take it. But yeah, I think we got off. You were asking about diagnosis, and I started railing at insurance companies.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, that makes sense. I didn't know if you did work too, where you would just talk to people that wanted to talk, like if they just wanted to pay out of pocket for somebody to talk to. Yeah. That's more of just like a therapist, though, right? But do you do that too?
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So like it's kind of like confusing, right? There are so many different types of therapists out there. There's like me, I'm a clinical psychologist. So that means as well as doing therapy, I can also like some people will come in for like psychological evaluation. So I would do testing because maybe their medication provider or their therapist is like a little bit confused. So I can help like give them some tests to help figure that out. So like I have training in that as well as doing therapy. And then there's, marriage and family therapists, and there's licensed clinical social worker. There's so many, and we're all therapists. We're all counselors at the end of the day. We're all kind of just the driving, like maybe theory behind our training might be a little bit different, but we're all kind of taught the same skills, and then maybe spent a lot more time like in like certain arenas or something, So I was in school for just a really fucking long time, which I loved it. I love school. I love learning, but yeah, it was a long time. And a lot
cheers to you for doing that, because that is not my cup of tea. I can't. School is not for me. My sister ended up being a doctor, and watching her go through that, I was like, how? Why?
You have to love it to do it, to be honest. Like, and something that like really bugs me is this equating with like titles. Like, I worked hard for my doctorate, and so like I'm proud of that. But that doesn't mean necessarily I'm any smarter or better than anyone else. Like, I know a lot of people who, didn't finish high school or didn't finish, didn't go on to like secondary or whatever graduate school education that are really fucking smart. Like, I have tested them. I know their IQ. I know my IQ. I know they're smarter than me. It doesn't have anything to do with like intelligence.
People confuse that all the time, I think. Education versus intelligence, which, they're not the same thing, like you were saying. Not. But you definitely do have a set of skills that's you're in the top tier, You're a professional in your career field, so you do have a skill set that's way above everybody else around you, typically.
I think, like, I don't remember the statistic right now, but there's like probably, I want to say 1%, but it might be a little bit more than that, but like that have doctoral degrees. So I know that there is like a very small actual portion of the community or, the population that does have that. And so like, part of me is like really proud and like, fuck yeah, I did that and all that. And another part of me is like, but I'm so in debt. You know what I mean? So there's pros and cons again.
There are. Yeah, the debt. Whew, being a doctor. A lot of money.
They should pay me to do that.
You're right.
I don't want to pay them. But that's okay. Like, I'll die with my debt. I'll pay the minimum for the rest of my life. And
maybe someday the government will actually wipe it out.
Yeah. That'd be nice.
Which has been promised several times. And it's like, what happened to that?
Yeah. My mom always sends me texts like, did you read this? Did you read that? I'm like, yeah, it's not.
The real problem, though, is these universities getting away with just upping the charges on this stuff. It's just, how can they keep doing that?
Why?
Getting away with it.
Blows my mind. I do not know, and I do not like it. And it sucks too, because I loved my education. I loved my faculty members. I loved all of that, but very make money-ish, I guess. Like, not great for sure.
Yeah. Where were we though? What were
diagnosing?
Oh, we were talking about diagnosing. Yeah, that's right.
So weirdest diagnosis? I don't know if I've I see a lot of depression. I see a lot of anxiety. I see a lot of like suicidality. So like just really real, like just so depressed that like, what's the point? What's the point of living? So that's like really my wheelhouse. A lot of my like extra training on top of like even after graduation has been in that arena. So I work with like a lot of people that have those struggles. But I don't know, the weirdest. There are some weird
You never had
ones.
any BTKs coming through?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I hope not. Like
schizophrenics?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of psychotic clients that like see or hear things that aren't. And so this is like funny because like to me that doesn't feel weird. Like that feels very normal for me. Like,
oh, so you're saying I don't have anything strange, just schizos and psychos and.
I mean, like I don't know if I've had any psychopaths, but.
Have you ever had it? Let me ask you this real quick. Have you ever had anybody come in that says they're thinking about harming someone else?
I ask that at every single intake because legally I have to. I have had people in the past, like sometimes it's on a paper that we'll give them, and then we'll discuss it. And I've had people like endorse, like, yes, I've like had feelings of wanting to hurt someone else. And I was like, oh, I'm about to go alone into a room with them. That'll be real cool. But you know what? Like a lot of it is, I'm really angry. I'm really upset. Sometimes I'm afraid that I'm this angry and I don't know how to control that anger. Like, can you help me? Yes, I fucking can. I got some skills for you. You know what I mean? It's like really a lot of it's just like, how do we regulate our emotions? I've never gotten to the point of like, this is the person I want to kill. I have a gun. I have that. Like, then I have like legal mandated reporting responsibilities.
You have to,
to protect the public.
That would freak me out, especially if I have like a kid that comes in that says like, I'm thinking about shooting up my school or something.
I've definitely had a kid say they want to like blow up a building.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, it's scary, but these
Why
kids,
is that such a popular thing to do right now?
to say or to do?
Well, it's
Like
definitely
the shooters you're saying?
Yeah, it happens all the time now. Do you know why that is? What changed that made? Is it just because it's popular and that's the first thing they think of?
There's probably a little bit of that. It's called the availability heuristic. So if we're hearing something a lot and it's like available and right in our head, that
it's
might
always
be
in the news. There's a shooting at this other school.
Right. So there's probably a little bit of that. But like you were saying before, I think like if we're talking about school shootings, I think we've always treated outsiders really fucking shitty and bullied or been mean and horrible. And that's probably better, like you were saying, nowadays than it was. I don't know. But I think it's the access to guns.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a cool thing to say in Kansas, and like I'm fine if you have your gun.
Well, that's your
cool.
opinion. I mean, it doesn't matter. If it's cool or not.
Yeah.
You're the one trying to figure it out, right?
Right, and it's like, I don't want to take away anyone's guns. I don't want to do that. Like, but if kids who are really hurting or upset or struggling have access to a gun, and it's a gun that can fucking kill a lot of people really fast, you know what I mean? I think that's why we see such an uptick in it. On top of the fucking news keeps showing it, so people keep thinking about it, you know? Like, it's not great.
What makes me wonder, though, like, what's the motive behind it is really what I'm asking about, you know, whether guns is good or bad. We definitely had access to guns in the 80s and 90s, too, and it seems like Columbine was the ticking point where, you know what I'm saying? Like, it happens, like, I don't know. For some reason, kids just want to do that now, and it doesn't... Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it just wasn't talked about as much back then.
I think that there might be some of that, but
I feel like it wasn't their go-to thing to do, you know?
Yeah.
Like, why is that the thing to do? Like, I'm going to shoot up the school now, you know? Isn't that strange?
It sucks.
I wonder if it's just because it was, you know, it was never really done, and then it started happening, and now it's just one of those things that's around forever because...
I mean, I think at the end of the day, like, these kids... I don't know. Obviously, I've never met them, but I'm like, these kids are maybe in pain or upset or angry or this or that, and they don't know how to fucking deal with it, and they know, like, I can do this, and I will maybe feel better or, like, get revenge or and you know what I mean? And because maybe they've seen it happen, I keep hitting that, sorry.
No, you're good.
Because they fucking A, God
right after you said it.
Yeah, but because I'm a hand talker. That's like a thing.
I am too. I'm always going like this. I don't know. It's just interesting to me. It's like, I just don't know why that's the go-to. Yeah. Why wouldn't you kill yourself instead of just shooting everybody else? You know, that's strange to me. That's psychotic behavior.
I think, you know, why wouldn't you? So the question is, why wouldn't you kill yourself instead of? I think depending on what is going through that person's brain is like, I want to die, but I'm going to take people with me. You know what I mean? Or these people have hurt me, they've caused me pain, and like that's not fair. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to die. You know, and they don't care because they're so. Maybe they don't have what they need to feel supported and not so angry, and so that's what they do. Whereas I try to teach people how to like regulate your emotions, you know what I mean? So we don't get to that fucking point.
Because that's like that's the pot boiling over, right? That's the last straw. Usually, there's no resort or nothing left.
That's what they feel like. I think, you know, and who knows why? I'm sure there's lots of reasons. Parents, blah blah, society. Like I don't fucking know. There's probably lots of reasons, but
it's just odd. I think 1,000 years from now, I think they're gonna look back on this time and be like, there was some weird phenomenon where people are shooting up schools all the time.
Yeah.
Just strange. Hopefully it gets better, but who knows?
I mean, I have kids come in. I don't work with kids right now, but when I was working with kids that were like, they did I grew up doing earthquake drills because we were in California, you know what I mean? And I know you all do probably like the tornado drills and stuff here, but they're like, oh, we did the, shooter on campus drill or like the lockdown drill and all of that. And, there's a lot of anxiety that kids will come in with like, and I have anxiety as a parent. Like, am I going to send my children to school one day and they're not going to come home. I don't want to fucking think about that.
And that's so crazy because how old are you?
I am 37.
37? Okay.
No, I'm 36.
36. After 30, it just blends together.
It doesn't fucking matter anymore.
Yeah, I'm 28, so a little bit younger, but we kind of came from the same era. Even when I was in high school and grade school, there was no such thing as a shooter drill.
Yeah.
You know, and now my brother just graduated high school, and that was a normal thing.
Yeah.
So like, just so crazy to me to even, because that wasn't even something I thought about. I don't remember ever thinking about that when I was young. You know,
it sucks. It sucks that that's a thing that
it's
you
insane.
have to worry about.
It's insane that you have to lock these schools up like a prison almost now. With like, you have to buzz in. Like our parents used to bring us cupcakes in the middle of the day in school. You know, they'd walk right in.
Different world, yeah, wild.
I don't know. It's definitely odd, but you're there to catch all that before, hopefully, right?
Yeah, I mean, and there are really amazing people that work like only with kids, that are there to help with that. And like I kind of like work on the other side for like 18 and older for adults, where it's kind of like, all right, you already got fucked up a little bit. Like things already happened. Yeah, like how can I help you, like heal a little bit. So yeah.
One thing I was going to ask too is your website. I was looking at all the services you offer. We kind of touched on that a little bit. You said you do like marriage counseling, a bunch of other stuff. I also saw that you had BDSM counseling.
So yes.
And I just wanted to ask about that.
Of course. So I work at a group practice, right? And so there are lots of different providers there that, like, that's the great thing about therapy, right? Like, if you like me and you like my personality, we're going to like work well together. Some people will be like, she talks a lot, or like, ooh, like she cusses, like she has purple hair, I don't want to work with her, right? And so like there is a match for everybody, I think. That being said, I personally don't work with like the poly or the kink or the BDSM community, but there are therapists that are like, because basically we come out of school with like our general training, and then it's like, what's your passion? Who do you really want to work with? And then you do like extra training. So there are people that
my passion's kinky shit.
Yeah, and there are people, and so yeah.
I guess my question is, what are you doing? Like, how are you helping them? Do they need help? Like, what's the therapy session look like on somebody with a kink? Like,
that is a good question. Since I don't do kink therapy, I can't tell you. But people who like kinky shit also have shame and depression and anxiety and worries about the fact that they like kinky shit. What do people think about me? You know what I mean? So I'm sure a lot of that is processing, like, how do
why am I so weird?
We're all fucking weird. Yeah, we're all weird. Like,
the older you get, the more you realize most people are freaks in some sort of way, right?
I think this is my own theory, but like once we embrace that weirdness, like that is when we're the fucking most happiest. Like instead of trying to be like,
instead of pushing it to the side your whole life.
Yeah, or trying to be like, the prettiest, funniest, I have to wear these clothes, I have to do these things, like I like fucking Star Trek and I want purple hair and I like to help people who are suicidal.
Yeah.
Like that might be weird to some people, and I embrace it and I'm fucking happy as shit.
Fuck yeah. Hell yeah. I'll drink to that. Cheers. I'll drink to that. It's kind of like me, drinking this much, this often is frowned upon, but you put it in a podcast format and it's like, hey, it's pretty cool.
I love it. Yeah. So you're working with your strengths here. I love that.
Working with my strengths, yep. I mean, I already do this anyways, That's why I came up with this idea.
I love it. Yeah.
But just hearing everybody's stories, I mean, I'm sure you get the same thing working with your patients. Yeah. It's crazy. It's amazing learning about humans and their different paths. And
I love humans. I love the human brain. Like, it really is just such a cool, wild thing. Like, yeah, for sure. Agreed.
Do you think, I guess first I'll ask, have you ever seen anybody that sees things like angels or demons or anything like, or ghosts or anything like that? And what's your opinion on that?
So I think that there's a couple of different questions there. I see people that believe in those things that are maybe spiritual or like believe in that kind of stuff. And I've also seen people that have seen things like maybe while they're psychotic, while there's some sort of psychotic break or psychosis happening, that, you know, demons are talking to them or things like that. And then your third question was like, do I believe in it? Like what part? Like,
well, I mean, my first thought is like a kid, like from The Omen that comes in that's possessed, right? Okay. Or like The Exorcist or something like that, you know, like demon possession. I always wondered how much of that was actual like schizophrenia or some sort of mental disorder versus actual spiritual stuff.
Yeah.
Like, do you think there's a spiritual realm that people see things, or do you think that it's purely mental?
Well, just as like a quick aside, because I'm sure you're going to want to ask me about that, my dissertation, which is something that you have to publish before you can become a doctor, is on psychedelics. So we can talk about that in a second.
Let's do that.
But do I believe in a spiritual realm? I don't know. I've never, there's no way for us to know or not know at this point. I personally have not had an experience. I'm not going to say no, that it's not there, because I don't fucking know. Do I believe that some people that are, especially like back in the day, if we're thinking like, you know, when they were doing exorcists and all of that, do I believe that was sometimes confused for psychosis because somebody had schizophrenia or something like that? Totally. But to say that like what they're seeing isn't real, I don't fucking know. I can't say yes or no.
If somebody comes in and they say like, hey, this demon is talking to me, or these voices are telling me to harm myself, right? Do you look at that like that's just purely going on in your mind, or do you ever consider like maybe there's something there? Maybe there's an actual force or an actual spirit that's kind of controlling you or talking to you? Or do you just treat it purely as like you got something crazy going on?
I don't know. I think there are some clinicians or like therapists that would lean a little bit more towards like, yeah, this is some sort of spirit world talking to us. I think I lean a little bit more like, you're struggling right now. How can I help you? It doesn't matter if what you're seeing is true or not, if it's real or if it's psychosis, but you don't want to kill yourself, but someone's telling you to do, you know what I mean? Like, I'm more going to be like, how do I help in this moment and not care so much about the cause, which some clinicians are not like that. They might just be like, yeah, this guy's fucking crazy. Give him some fucking meds and it'll stop.
Give him some pills. And,
yeah. And maybe it will, but maybe it won't. I don't fucking know. But at the end of the day, if someone is coming to me, they don't want to hurt themselves, but someone is telling them to do that, then I'm going to...
So creepy. That gives me the chills thinking about that.
Yeah, there's some wild stuff out there.
Because there's a theory, you know, and this kind of leads us into psychedelics, because I know a lot about that too.
Ooh, okay.
There's a theory that there's a veil, basically, and your brain, you know how your brain plays tricks? It'll block out things like you can't remember day-to-days, but you can remember years and long-term, because your brain kind of sorts through all this stuff, filters things out for you, right? And there's a theory that there's a veil there that keeps this other realm or dimensions or whatever you want to call it from us actually seeing and interacting with that. And when you take psychedelics, it kind of pulls that veil back. Or when you're schizophrenic, you kind of lose that veil, you know?
Yeah.
And
I've heard these theories.
I know. It's kind of crazy to think about, right?
It's really cool to think about. And I don't fucking know, and I don't have the answer. And does part of me think like, that'd be really fucking cool if that was true? Yeah.
It would be, right?
And
but it's also kind of scary if it's true. You know?
But it's also scary if it's true. And like I said, like as a healing professional, like for me, it doesn't really matter if it's true right now. Like as long as I am validating the client and I know that they're hurting and I know that they're struggling, then that's where I'm going with it. But
that makes sense.
Part of me is like, is that just their brain doing it? And even if it is just their brain, does that make it not real or not? Like I'm sure you could talk to some real weird people that would, but I don't want to, that's a judgment. Maybe not weird people, but like there are people, that are.
You can call people weird if you admit that you're weird yourself.
Yes, that's true.
I just say I'm weird to everybody and that's cool.
And I can take on the weirdness, but I don't want to like give it to someone if
They're
it's
like, you're a fucking freak, dude.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't say that.
So you've never seen anything convincing, like somebody that says something that's predicting the future or sees things that happen somewhere else, you know?
Not personally.
Not personally.
I'm still pretty early in my career though, so I'll get back to you when I do.
You might come across some Nostradamus type dude that's like,
1
year.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to know about it. if you're telling me when the world's gonna end or something, nah, I'm good. But yeah.
Yeah. Crazy stuff. I mean, psychedelics too. What's your opinion on psychedelics?
Oh, I love it. I mean, let me backtrack a little bit. As a licensed professional, I am not currently taking psychedelics. But the research that is out there about how effective psychedelics are for treating mental, health.
Yep.
It's just fucking wild. And
a lot of cool stuff coming out right now with that, especially with PTSD,
MDMA. Like
MDMA.
that was for my dissertation. Yeah, I'm just like, if what we're doing hasn't been helping, and sorry, I burped.
It's all good.
If what we're doing hasn't been helping, and we know that fucking giving someone MDMA is gonna help them, and I can tell you the science behind it. Okay, so they're telling us that the amygdala, which is like the fear center of our brain, is like shutting down. It's increasing like all these feel good fucking neurotransmitters like oxytocin and oh God, see, here's the beer coming in and like messing me up and not remembering things, but like, and some
it's hard
like
on the
serotonin, yeah, like all of that, like that helps us feel connected. So if you're giving someone who has had trauma something that's making them not feel afraid and is making them feel connected, and they can now talk about some fucking trauma, it's really still just therapy, but just squished down, consolidated into like much less time. And they're able to like talk about those things without feeling afraid because of, however the meds are messing with their head. So,
and as from what I understand, there's virtually no side effects from it either.
Well, considering that there's only 2 medications FDA approved on the market right now for PTSD, I think it's Paxil and Zoloft. I could totally be wrong. And you have to take them forever. There's all these like side effects for it. And the MDMA assisted psychotherapy is 3
doses.
3 doses over time with integration sessions in between. And then you're fucking done. And people are no longer like meeting criteria for PTSD and are no longer like,
So you're saying
struggling.
that these sessions where you're basically doing therapy with somebody like you for hours at a time while
8 hours.
8 hours while you're under the influence of MDMA or psilocybin.
Yeah, there's other psilocybin research,
That is the healing process. Are you a proponent of people self-medicating?
Well, first of all, let me just backtrack. I don't know I'm not going to say that is not the healing process, but I don't think it's not only the healing process, because the integration after that, like, you're having the medication and you're having 8 hours of therapy, but then you're having like sessions with your therapist to fucking process all that shit that came up. Then you're doing the medication again. You're processing again. So do I think that the psychedelics are important, but I don't think that's all of it. Like, cause I could be out on the street right now and fucking do an MDMA every day and my trauma isn't healed. It's the therapy with it. And then your question really quickly was like self-medication.
Yes.
I feel like people are going to do it, and I'm all about harm reduction. How are you going to do it safely and not like the thing is, like with all the research right now, they are like making sure that you don't have maybe parents that have schizophrenia, because if you have never had some sort of psychotic thing, but now you've taken psychedelics, perhaps that can cause some sort of psychotic break. So I'm like, I don't think everyone should do psychedelics. I think that they are healing. They can help you. If you want to do it by yourself, like, please be safe and maybe find a place that you could do it where you have someone with you.
Have some friends around you that you vibe with really well.
Setting, all of that. Like, that's going to be important. So like, So
you're saying, just taking ecstasy and going to a Marshmello concert is not going to heal your PTSD.
Totally not. Totally not. And at the end of the day, because I'm a proponent for like accessibility, who knows what it's going to fucking look like when people can actually do this. Like, if it gets FDA approved, like they think within the next year, how expensive is it going to be? That person who has fucking PTSD that's fucking poor as shit, how are we going to make sure they get that? Maybe they can't. if they want to do that healing on their own and they can do it safely and there's someone that can process with them, like, dear Lord, I hope I'm not fucking somehow like gonna lose my license for saying that. Like, I'm not telling people to do that, but I want to make sure that everyone has access to that kind of stuff. And it sucks.
Same.
Yeah. Like,
I mean, it's, first of all, it's crazy that it's even illegal and it's a Schedule 2 or
it's
whatever.
Schedule 1 still.
Schedule 1.
Yeah.
Insane. I mean, we know, most people realize how stupid that was now, going back to the war on drugs.
Yeah.
But my one fear, like you were saying, with legalization, which I am a proponent of most things,
Same.
is the government getting control of it and the pharmaceutical companies, and now you're paying...
Making money, yeah.
I mean, yeah, that is my only fear, but I do think that all those things should be legal, if not decriminalized.
Yep,
you know?
Agreed, yeah. And, well, there's places out there that are doing it, like Washington and Oregon, and I don't know. I think like psilocybin is already in some of those places. So we'll see.
You can't even get addicted. Like, that's the craziest part. No one's out there ruining their lives over mushrooms.
Yeah.
You know, they might have a scary night where they think they're dying, but nobody's out
puking their guts out or something.
Nobody's giving their last dollar to get one more mushroom, right?
Yeah. Agreed. Psychedelics are fucking cool.
It's nature's medicine. Right?
And let's bring it back. Indigenous fucking cultures have been using it for thousands of pounds. Like, I think it's like 500 BCE. Like, there's like mushroom paintings on the wall. Like, we know people were.
Have you ever heard the stoned ape theory?
Tell me. I don't know.
It's I don't know who came up with it. It's some guy that wrote a book on it. He's studied human evolution for his whole career. He's like 40 years of doing this. He wrote a book called The Stoned Ape Theory, and he thinks that part of our progression, how we so rapidly, our brains grew so rapidly in a short period of time, because if you look at most animals and evolution, it's a long process for this stuff to develop, right?
Yeah.
There was a period in human history where our brains all of a sudden just went crazy.
Yeah.
And got ginormous, and it made childbirth a lot harder for women, and all these crazy things, and we sacrificed all that to get these big brains, and he thinks that mushrooms were a big part of that. And it's what caused us to grow and so rapidly and get so smart so rapidly. Yeah.
Interesting. I have not delved into that, but I mean, I wouldn't be fucking surprised.
I mean, I think it's cool. There's possible.
Hunters and gatherers out there. Here's some fucking mushrooms. We eat it, and then all this. You know what I mean? I wouldn't say that's not possible.
Too. Yeah, he claims it's crazy. It's a crazy theory. You need to look into it. He claims that religion and everything is all based around the mushroom, and there's a lot of symbolism in different religious texts and stuff about the mushroom. And
I have kind of heard that. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
But going to back to the spiritual realm too. DMT and ayahuasca. Have you looked at those at all?
I don't have any personal experience with either of those, but I've done reading on both of them, and they seem fucking cool, and I would totally do it if I could, if it was legal, or I could afford to go to like South, wherever.
Go down somewhere in South America and sit in a hut and do some ayahuasca tea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never done them either, but from what I've read, it's crazy.
Although we have DMT, isn't that like a naturally occurring? Like there is some of that in us. Yeah.
Yep. It's in most living things. I think I could be mistaken, but
very cool.
Apparently, people see the same things every time they do these. They do these trips and they see these beings and they go to this world and they all say it was real and they feel like a presence of love.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, like, man, maybe our brain can, go through a portal off to some other world or some dimension.
And I've read some stuff about because if that's true, like, fuck yeah, sign me up. That's so cool. Maybe, hundreds of whatever years from now we will be able to, like, if that's a thing. But also I've read all of those drugs are basically like kicking in like specific like neurotransmitters that make us see that same thing. And also I think it's Jung, Jung. He was I want to say he was a therapist, but I don't know exactly how. But yeah, he has this whole entire thing like Jungian therapy is all about the fact that there's like these similar things in people's lives and the dreams, and we all have like the same kind of dreams, and like, there's like I'm not Jungian, like my perspective of how I do therapy is not that, but there are people that do that kind of stuff, and I don't know if that was psychedelic related or not, but like very similar, like people see the same things or believe the same things, and they're from different cultures and different countries at different times, and it keeps coming up. So very interesting stuff, I think. Yeah,
that's some cool stuff. I love it. I'm glad that the world is finally embracing stuff like this.
Agreed.
You know, because when we were kids, it was taboo to even mention anything about it. You know?
And I think, like, let me, like, also just say really quickly, like, I had mentioned earlier, like, yeah, you want to find a therapist that, like, meshes with your personality. I am in no way, like, there are many people who believe like I do and that are therapists, and there are people who are like, that fucking chick that was just on Careers Over Beers, she is not a clinical psychologist, fuck that lady. No. I did my time. I did my schooling. Like,
you have the credentials.
I do. Yeah. And you know what I mean? Like, but that's the thing. Like, humans are just going to be different. And some will believe that and some won't. So, yeah. Like, I guess I'll just say it really sucks because I think therapy, like, I think everyone, even if you weren't fucking traumatized or abused or you're not depressed or anxious, I think therapy is fucking amazing because you get to talk to someone, you are not judged, you know, you don't have to worry about what you say, blah, blah, blah. But if somebody goes and has a bad experience, they're like, never gonna fucking do that again.
Right.
And sometimes you have to find goodness of fit. Like, at the end of the day, research tells us it doesn't matter what type of therapy you do, if you do not like mesh with your therapist, that's where all of the healing comes from.
Yeah.
So I just want to tell people out there, like, keep looking. And I know it fucking sucks. And if you're depressed and you can't even get out of bed, how the fuck are you going to keep looking? But just keep looking. Like, there's people, you know what I mean? Like,
so you want to leave everybody with a good experience no matter what?
Yeah, like.
Yeah. So you're never judgmental at all? What if somebody's in there and they're like batshit crazy or they're really racist or they're really sexist or something?
Yeah.
Do you just kind of deal with it and talk them through it? Or are you like, dude, what the fuck?
I think... So I do a type of therapy called DBT, and part of it is like being non-judgmental, like,
yeah.
And part of it is also like, we all know that we judge, and judging doesn't really help us a lot of the time. You know what I mean? So like, do I judge? Yeah. Was I afraid that you were going to murder me? Like, oh, this guy drinking beer, there was judgments there.
Then we started talking about serial killers right off the bat.
Right. So, you know, like, I'm not going to say I never judge anyone, but I am conscious of that. Mm-hmm. And I try and step back. And if someone is racist or, you know, blah, 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 all those other things that you said, like, I just try and understand at the end of the day that there's a reason, and maybe I'm not the best fit for this person.
Coming from?
Yeah. Maybe I'm not because I would still say, like, I don't believe that, and I can understand why you believe that. Do you want to change that? Is that working for you? Has that been helpful for you? Have you lost fucking jobs?
Does that make your life easier?
Yeah, and if they don't want to work on that, I'm probably not the best therapist for them. But if they do, then even if someone was racist or sexist, like, I would do my best to help that person. Yeah. Like, you know, so
I guess if they're seeking help, that's a step in the right direction, right?
Totes.
But I would just like to see, I'm trying to picture, like, if somebody's in the room and they're just like going off on women, and let's say they just didn't want women to have any rights at all, and you're like, okay, yeah, well, I disagree, but
I mean, it might be a very uncomfortable session, but I have skills to deal with my discomfort, and I think that they're a little fucked up, or like, I wish they weren't like that. Yes. But like I said,
have you ever had anybody say some crazy shit, or can you not talk about that?
I mean, yeah. So I tell all my clients, like, anything you tell me is going to be private and confidential. The only reason why I would ever break that confidentiality is if you're going to hurt yourself or someone else, mm-hmm. or if you know a child, an elderly, or a dependent adult is not safe for some reason.
Does that apply even if you don't mention their name?
So it's still considered like protected health information, and if someone were to hear me talking and know that I was talking about them, then it would do it. Yeah. But your question was, I don't think I've actually ever had anybody come in like that, and the reason is I am very clear about who I think I would help the most. Mm-hmm. And like, maybe a sexist, racist person is not going to fucking come to see a woman with purple hair. You know what I mean? Like, that just really hasn't, like, I don't bring those people to me. I bring the marginalized, like, queer, like, trans, fucking, mm-hmm. like, neurodivergent, like, ADHDers, people that are just like, I feel like I don't fit, the misfits. Mm-hmm. I bring them to me because I can validate that experience because I've been there, you know?
Right.
And if for some reason someone came to me and they were sexist or racist, I would do my best and ethically and at the end of the day, it's actually my job to refer them out if I think that I could not help them. Like if I think somebody else could help them and I couldn't, it is my job ethically to say, like, I want to support you. I don't think I have the skill to do that. Here are 3 names for you. Please look them up, you know? So, I don't know.
It's interesting because just the broad range of different people and the things they might say or the things they might talk about.
I'm going to do one more.
It's got to be interesting just dealing with that because you really don't know what to expect every time somebody comes in, right?
It's fucking fun as shit. Like, I love it. I love it. I mean, to be fair, we have a little bit of an idea because we have them fill out some intake paperwork. Why are you seeking help? All that. But someone could say depression and anxiety and then come in and be like, I was abused my whole life. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I hate everyone. Like, you just never fucking know what their story is going to be, you know? And I love that. Like, it makes my job interesting. It makes me want to come to work every day. Like,
does it ever make you sad seeing what other people go through?
Totally.
Does it make you depressed yourself sometimes?
Do
you ever just get so overwhelmed, like, God damn, humans are fucking assholes?
I think there's parts sometimes where I'm like, God, that was a really fucking hard day, or that really sucked. But I think because of my training and because of my own personal work with like my awareness of what I'm feeling and the fact that I have such a good support system, my husband, my family, my friends, like, it helps. It's that buffer. Like, yeah, I'm definitely sad. Like, I will come home and, like, I can't even tell my husband about the things that I hear because it is protected and confidential. But, like, sometimes I'll be like, I heard something really sad today. You know what I mean? And so just, like, making sure that I have the skills to deal with that, because at the end of the day, it's in the therapy room, it's not about me. It's about the client, And I go to my own therapy. Shout out Reagan. What up? Like, you know what I mean?
You go to a therapist yourself?
Fuck
really?
Yeah. So one of the things that I don't know if they still do it any day, but most graduate schools, that was part of the prerequisites. Like, you needed to do your own therapy before becoming a therapist, if only to, like, see what it's like to be on the other side of the couch. And I am, like, a high-functioning, like, successful, resilient, like, great person. And I still see my therapist weekly to talk about, like, I don't know, just whatever I need.
Just whatever you need to get off your chest that day.
Yeah, and that's why I said I think everyone should fucking go to therapy. It doesn't matter. So yeah,
Would you consider a good friend a therapist though too, or a group of friends?
Totally. I mean, I think they can also fill that need in a way. But like, for instance, I have a really good friend whose like husband is like struggling right now, and she's like, I'm here for him. I want to talk to him and stuff like that. And I'm like, therapy is different though, because your husband might not feel comfortable, or your friend might not feel comfortable saying that, like, maybe you're part of the reason, not because they're mad at you or anything, but you're part of the reason why I'm feeling a little bit sad or a little bit anxious. And so, fuck you thing. So at the end of the day, I am the non-judgmental, like, unbiased. I don't have a fucking dog in this fight. Like, I am just here to give you this outside perspective. And your friends and your wife and your family, no matter what, they can't do that because they're in it.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that they still can't be helpful.
That makes sense.
They totally can. And
they don't have the skill set that you guys learned as you went through your whole education process, right, to deal with things.
Yeah, like,
and
we have
they might not respond the right way, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I've heard a lot of times that people try to fix problems, and that's really not what the other person's looking for, is they really just want
to be listened to. There's this really fucking funny YouTube video called It's Not the Nail. Have you ever, like, seen that? Or It's Not About the Nail? It's like 30 seconds. But basically, like, there's this, like, chick with, like, a nail in her forehead. Like, it's just, like, this fake nail sticking out of her forehead. And she's like, oh, and my head hurts so bad, and like, oh, and this and that. And the guy's like, well, there's like she's like, no, it's not about that. It's this, that, and at the end of the day, it was like, okay, once she was like validated, like, she felt better. Like, she knew, like, we know what our problems are. Right. Sometimes they don't need to be solved. We just want people to be like, yeah, that's fucking hard. I get why you're struggling,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
They just need somebody to agree with them, like, damn, that's fucked up.
You think agree with you, yes, but also, like, I challenge my clients. Like, okay, I can see why you think that. And I kind of think of it in a different way. What do you feel about that? You know? So I think you need that validation and you need a little bit of challenging, like, just depending on the situation.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Cool. Well, I think I'm ready to start. So let's go ahead and do it right here.
Yeah, right. Where's my money? No, I'm just kidding. Oh God, you should probably get rid of that for the.
Well, we got to pay you, or you're not doing this for free, right?
Yeah, my beer was payment. Yeah, yeah.
Would you do a live podcast therapy session?
I don't.
Or would that be too weird?
Well, I think like typically that would be frowned upon in our. Profession. And I think like at the end of the day, there are like, you can find live actual sessions like online. You have to have clients that are like aware and are willing to sign something and are actually aware, because sometimes we're talking about therapy and like my clients make me laugh. I make my clients laugh. We throw around some cuss words and then suddenly it's fucking real and someone's crying, you know what I mean? And so it's like there has to be like true consent. Like people have to understand all of the bad things or the good things that can happen. So I don't think I would ever do that because I'd be afraid I would lose my license. I don't know. I'd have to look into it though and just see, like, it would be kind of cool, I think, at the same time.
It would be kind of cool for people to see that happen in real time.
I mean, and I'm all about like, yeah, like if it would get people to like consider therapy and maybe they were like afraid for some reason, don't be afraid. I don't bite. Like it's really good. I promise. Like,
you know what my favorite depiction of a therapist always was?
Oh God, what?
From a movie, Good Will Hunting. Have you ever seen it?
Yes.
Robin Williams.
I love Robin Williams.
He's the goat.
Yeah.
One of the goats, anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I always pictured in my head as a good therapist, and the way he just breaks them down, you know. Do you have any techniques to really break the ice? Like I'm sure when people first see you, they're really timid probably some of the times. They're not willing to really jump right into it maybe. Do you ever have techniques to just break that shit apart and like, let's get into it?
I mean, I don't think I have any sort of magical thing that I learned in school. I think what we learned is that like rapport is what's important, and some people might fucking like trauma dump on me in the very first session and be like, blah, 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 these are all the fucking horrible things that happened to me. That doesn't mean that they're ready to do the work though. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's so much breaking people down. I think it's like, I can be aware of those things, and it's probably still going to take 2 months, 3 months, a year, depending on the person, before you're actually ready to do the work. So.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, like there are certain type of, like, let me just say, there are certain type of therapies. Don't laugh at me. There are certain type of therapies that are like time limited, right? Like, so you could do 6 to 12 weeks of trauma focused CBT, you know, and there's research that shows that works. But like the true healing, I think, takes time, and it's about the relationship.
Time is the ultimate healer.
Yeah, and I don't know if I break people down. I think just me and my personality of like, you're welcome here. I'm not going to judge you. What do you feel like is scary? And sometimes people will be like, yeah, you know, I was sad at school today. And then the next session, once they feel like maybe they could trust me, they're like, and this awful fucking thing happened to me and I was abused for you know what I mean? So it's like people aren't going to give that part of themselves, even like there's no secret intervention.
There's no secret technique. You never stand there and go, it's not your fault. It's not your fault.
I mean, I definitely tell people it's not their fault, but I don't do it over
fault.
and over again. Okay, wait, is that from a movie or something?
Yeah, that's from Good Will Hunting.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, that's right. Sometimes we have to repeat things like that to get that through to people, but I don't know how that would land on some people sometimes.
Sometimes movies aren't an accurate portrayal of what it's really like talking to somebody, you know?
Yeah, and maybe there are some therapists out there that are like that, but I'm probably not going to pop off with it's not your fault 8 times in a row, like the very first time I meet someone. So I don't know. Yeah.
So you're not an MD, so you can't prescribe medications, correct?
That's right.
Are you a proponent of medicating, or do you try to do everything before you do that?
I think it depends. Because there are some struggles where it's like, we're not going to get anywhere in therapy until, you know, maybe we start some medication that we feel like is going to help you. But there are a lot of things too where it's like, maybe let's talk about it for a bit, and yeah, suddenly I feel a lot better. I don't need the medication. like for me, I'm an ADHD, or I have ADHD. I take ADHD medication. That fucking helps. You know what I mean?
Adderall?
I don't take Adderall. I take, oh dear Lord,
I guess we don't have to talk about it.
Astaris. I take Astaris. It's some like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Some new med out there. No, I don't think I've ever taken Adderall.
That's the big one that I know of. For
that is the big,
that my friends have.
Big one, yeah. But it's just like, yeah, it just depends. It really depends. Sometimes I'll say like, what are your thoughts on medication? And some people are like, I'm not into it. I don't want to do it. I was like, let's see what we could do and let's revisit it. And sometimes I'm like, damn, that person really fucking like, that is just like some chronic depression that is straight up like fucking neurotransmitters. It's not so much what's going on in their life. You know what I mean? So sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish they wouldn't, but I would never force that med on someone. So I really leave it up to the person. Sometimes people are like, yeah, fucking meds. Let me take all the meds.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, you could do that. And we're still going to need to talk about all this stuff. You're still going to be fucking sad. It's not going to fix it. But yeah, I'm a proponent of medication for sure.
Have you ever seen cases where diet and exercise or lifestyle factors can affect depression or any other disorder?
Yes.
Or do you think that's not really a factor?
I think I will probably have a very different take than a lot of people in our field. I feel like when we move our body, no matter what, it's natural that endorphins are going to come out. You know what I mean? So we are going to feel better. So yeah, it for sure makes sense if we, go outside and get some sunlight. Like for sure, that is going to help your depression. Maybe moving, but some people are maybe in bodies that they are unable to do that. Like they can't, do that type of exercise. So I think that while, yes, that could be part of helping someone, on their journey of healing, I don't think necessarily it has to be. But yeah, for sure it could be helpful. If you eat shit that makes you feel bad, I'm not saying certain foods. I think all foods are good. Like there's no morality around food. Like eat a fucking donut, eat some fucking celery. I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? But if you're eating something that maybe makes you not feel good, don't eat that, So I think it's very gray. Like I think people like to polarize. Like you said, like this is healthy.
Are you team holistic
good.
Or are you team medicine?
Yeah, no. See, I'm none of that. I'm just like,
I like that.
Yeah.
I respect that because there's no reason to pick a team.
No, there really isn't. And it's going to be different for fucking every person.
Yeah.
So
yeah, there is a lot of evidence though that's coming out that I think is cool. That's the connection between the gut microbiome and the brain health. And I've seen that personally. I've experienced it personally.
Oh, really? Tell me.
Well, just eating better foods and eating more probiotics and things like that. Getting off of the standard American diet and venturing out a little more,
But the standard American diet tastes so good.
Oh, it does. It tastes fucking great.
Yeah.
It tastes fucking great.
Yeah.
But, eat a little yogurt in the morning or something, drink some kombucha, whatever it might be. Yeah. But I've noticed, I think I feel better. Maybe it's just a placebo. I don't know.
That's still a powerful, valid thing.
It sure is.
Yeah, I'm totally for that. And if that, at the end of the day, if someone's like, okay, and now I've stopped eating all of these types of foods and I'm feeling better. I'm like, but are you really? Because now all you can think about is food, like donuts all day, every day. And you're so worried about it and you're anxious about going out with your friends because God forbid they want to have a beer. You know what I mean? It's a balance to me. It really is a balance. That's cool. Fucking eat things that make you feel good. But if it's at such an extreme that you can't live your life, I probably want to talk to you more about that and see how is it helping you really? But yeah, I'm sure there is science, and I've heard about that connection as well. There's a couple of books on my to-be-read list that I have not read yet because that list is quite long. Yeah. But I know that there's research on that, and that's a thing.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, a lot of what we eat is processed now. We're not really getting the stuff that you get in the probiotics, the live culture or the live bacteria or whatever,
Yeah.
And the way we eat is so different now than 100 years ago, too. It's apples and oranges. So
for sure,
who knows? I mean, that's also what makes me wonder about a lot of the stuff. Obviously, there's way more people that have disorders of some sort today than there were 100 years ago. Now, that's probably because they weren't diagnosing stuff back then, right? They didn't have the tools to do it. But do you think there's an increase, or do you think we're just catching it more?
I for sure think we're just catching it more. I think that I don't know. I also probably don't have the same exact thought as a lot of people in our field because I fucking hate diagnosing. I'm just like, I don't like, okay, you have depression or you have anxiety or you have trauma or you have all three of those. So many of my clients have all fucking three of those. And it's like, does me putting a label on it help you at all? No, it helps insurance pay for it, which I'm sure is good for you. But at the end of the day, like, what are you struggling with? What are the symptoms? How can I make that better? So yeah, do I think that suddenly, sorry, burping.
Do you think there's more people now that have disorders than there were 100 years ago?
I don't.
You don't?
I really don't think so. I think we are more accepting and knowledgeable and, aware, and just people are more willing to talk about it. I think it's all that. Yeah, like that's a big thing in the autism community. It's like, oh, everyone's autistic now. Yeah, everyone, maybe all those people fucking struggled all that time and it was just never safe, or there was never a term, or there was never whatever. Like, I'm not going to take away your identity of.
Well, there were terms, but they weren't very
Or
nice.
They were not kind terms, yes. And so, like, yeah, I don't think that suddenly people are just, like, fucking TikTok diagnosing themselves. Like, maybe there's a little bit of that. And at the end of the day, like, I think people are hearing information that fucking lands for them. And they're like, I'm not fucking weird. I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, there are people that struggle with this, and this is what this is. Like, so, yeah, I totally believe that this has always been there. And we just have not, like,
we just haven't had the tools to catch it, or the willingness to look into it more and understand what it actually is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. It makes sense. But there is one thing that I look at that I've heard before, and it kind of makes sense to me too, is that a lot of anxiety that we have, not even necessarily like depression or anything, but just anxiousness, which everybody experiences. There's a lot of people that say that going to the gym or moving and getting those endorphins out will reduce that, Do you think that there's an inherent drive in humans that we developed for hundreds of thousands of years, since we were on the move all the time, working our ass off all the time, and now we don't get as physically active today? Do you think that that's part of the reason why maybe we have a little more anxiety, because our bodies are like, yo, we're supposed to be doing something, and really we're just chilling in an office chair all day? Right?
I mean, I think it might be a little bit that, like, I talk about this all the time, like this negativity bias of, like, when we were fucking, I don't know, this is not going to be the right term, but like Neanderthals or whatever, like on the savannah, like our brain is literally wired to notice the negative, like protect us.
Be afraid of the predators.
So it's like, okay, is that a rock or is that a fucking lion? I don't fucking know. It doesn't matter. I'm going to run. You know what I mean? So our brain is like built to be like, I'm not going to question it. I'm going to assume the worst so that I can survive.
Exactly. Yeah, we're the same organism. We're the same thing that thing was living in Africa 1,000 years ago, right?
Yes. So, but for the movement part, yeah, I mean, I think it just goes to the point of, like, what helped us survive in the past is a very different world than what we live in now.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have to move. We don't have to.
We can just chill hungover all day and order DoorDash Taco Bell, right?
Can you do that in Coolidge?
I do it, yeah.
Okay,
I have just done
wondering.
it.
Okay,
it's not cheap, but
I bet. But yeah, no, it's like what served us well in the past doesn't serve us now because we don't have the same dangers, but our brain is still wired the same way. So, like, when we have that anxiety, it's reacting like we're seeing a fucking tiger about to do it, but really it's just traffic, or you know what I mean? So does movement play a part in that? Like, quite possibly. Like, I think that could be helpful, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I could definitely see that being a thing. I could definitely see it. I mean, it makes sense to me that same organism that evolved in the wild like that would react weirdly when it's just put into a box in a big city, that just sits in an apartment all day and looks at a screen. And then you have these feelings, and you're like, what is going on? And it's like, you weren't supposed to be just sitting like that,
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's interesting stuff.
It really is.
And a lot of people have success with exercise and stuff.
Yeah. And like I said, moving your body, like endorphins, like, of course it's going to feel good. And like, I just don't like to like straight up like say for everyone it's going to be helpful, because people have chronic pain. People have, they're unable to pay for a fucking gym membership. Not that you only have to go to the gym to exercise, but I'm just saying, like, what's good? It's not going to help everyone. And could it be helpful to move? Yes. Like, if you can, fucking move your body. Like, that would be good.
I used to work with this guy that was a real holistic, like, nature type guy.
Yeah.
And he would just, for his workouts, he would go down to the river and just throw rocks around, like big ass rocks, or he'd climb a tree.
That was fucking
you know?
cool.
Like, it's kind of nutty, but I like it.
I like nature. That's a thing. Yeah.
I do too. Nature is pretty healing for me.
Yeah.
If I'm feeling bad, if I go out for a walk or something, there's something to it.
There really is. What is it like I don't know, now I'm asking the questions, but like, how are people in Kansas like getting nature? Because I'm used to like the mountains and the
Yeah,
and the
we don't really have a lot of
deserts.
that. It's a lot of plains and a lot of fields and a lot of wheat.
Yeah. But it's still beautiful.
It's beautiful in its own way, yeah. It's really,
Agreed.
if you have hay fever at all, you're going to notice the allergies a little bit.
Oh, yeah, allergies.
But what I like about it is we have all 4 seasons. And
You do.
I love summer, I love spring, but sometimes I like winter. I like a snowy Christmas, or I like the feeling of fall.
I had my first white Christmas last year when I moved to Kansas. It was fucking amazing.
It's
I was like,
badass,
"There's
isn't
snow.
it?
There's snow.
I love it, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The changing of the seasons is really cool to me.
Agreed.
And I like places like Hawaii and California, but I don't know if I could do 75 and sunny year round.
Yeah.
Without any change at all. That'd be kind of weird to me. But I've lived here my whole life, so we definitely have extremes, which you might have seen already, where it's 105 and then it'll be 30 the next week.
It's so wild. I love it though. We took my kids to down in Derby. There's like a dinosaur park, and I was like, it says it's gonna be like 105 today. Like, t-shirt and shorts, but they open at 10 a.m. and it was like fucking 60, like 50, but windy. It's that fucking wind.
Oh yeah, the wind sucks.
And I was like, oh, I'm a bad mom. Like, let's go fucking buy them like a blanket and shit like that. And they're like, you're not from Kansas, are you? And I'm like, no. They're like, keep blankets and t-shirts and jackets and like
keep
something
everything
for
in your
all
car
the
ready to
seasons
go.
in your car. Yeah. I'm
wind
learning.
The wind sucks. That's one thing that I'm not a fan of. I never have been.
Yeah,
I could
it's
do
wild.
without that. Like, I don't mind the cold, but when it's windy and cold, it's fucking horrible. Miserable.
Frigid. But I'm inside most of the time, so it's not like too horrible for me. But like, yeah. It's wild.
Well, we're at about an hour and a half right now. I guess we could start wrapping her up.
I'm a talker. That's part of my ADHD.
No, I love it.
I'm a talker.
That's perfect for being on a podcast.
Yay!
Right?
Yeah.
What are some misconceptions of your job that you would like to lay out there for people?
Misconceptions.
Are there any misconceptions?
I mean, I think so. You don't have to be fucking crazy to come to therapy. I'm not fucking crazy. Am I? Just kidding.
Or are you?
Or am I? Yeah, no, like, you don't have to be crazy. You don't have to be suffering so bad to reach out for help, like, honestly. And I think, there's a lot of people that feel like, oh, it's not bad enough, or, like, I don't need a therapist. So that's like the biggest misconception. And I think also like maybe accessibility, that's like a reality, and there are still always like ways to find like affordable mental health care. So like if that's ever like an issue, like reaching out to people and just knowing that like it's my job, even if I can't help you, to fucking find someone that will be able to help you like for what you could pay, even if for what you pay is zero.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are therapists that will do pro bono work,
Yeah.
So those are probably like the two that I can think of, or that you're so fucking weird that no one's ever gonna love you or trust you or judge. You know what I mean? Like, I've heard a lot of fucking shit that I can't like really like say so much because my clients would be like, she was fucking talking about me. I'm not gonna do that. But
Is there somebody out there for everybody? Do you truly believe that?
Are we talking about like intimate love?
Like
or therapist and counselor?
No.
Okay.
We're talking about like relationships.
Yeah.
Like that's a common saying that they say is there's some weirdo out there for every weirdo, right?
I totally think that's a thing. And I also think that like some people don't need anyone. Like I think our society pushes so hard that you need someone else to be happy.
Especially grandmas. Grandma. Where's your wife at, Jesse?
Just give them
I'm
some
just
time.
chilling.
But yeah, like I think that if you look and you want to find that person, there's someone there.
That's going back to the internet talk earlier, finding that community.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people learned that as the internet came about. They're like, holy shit, there's a freak out there like me.
Well, if you fucking...
if somebody likes eating Frosted Flakes off the walls like me.
That's me.
There's a whole group of cereal wall eaters, right?
Well, and I think like if you... and no shade to Wichita, Kansas, but if you grow up in very small areas... where you are the only person, like, no, you're not, like, the fucking chances that you're the only person in the world that does one fucking thing, yeah, it's not a thing, dude. Yep. Like, it's not a thing. Like, there is that community out there, but it can feel so, like, isolating in smaller rural areas. So I think, yeah, the internet is good for that. And I feel like if you want someone, if you want them, they're there. They're there. Yeah. You just got to find it, you know? Yeah. You got to go through some, like, shitty ones.
That are going to shut you down and call you a weirdo.
Yeah, that sucks, but that's a reality. But, yeah, I truly believe that.
I mean, you're on Reddit. You know the first rule of the internet is if you can think of it, there's probably a porn of it out there somewhere, right?
Yup.
All sorts of weird stuff.
There is weird stuff. But, Reddit, that's where I got, like, a lot of fucking, like... talking about the internet, like that's another pro, like marketing. Like I'm new to Kansas. I don't fucking know people out here. I'm here. How do I get my name out there? Facebook and Reddit. Like, so you reached out to me because of Reddit?
I saw you on Reddit. Yeah, I saw you posted in the Wichita Reddit.
A fuck ton of people actually reached out to me because of the Wichita Reddit and all that. And I was just like, that's fucking awesome. People are like, what? You posted on Reddit? Like,
one thing you're going to learn about Wichita if you haven't already is we embrace people that are doing their own thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool people in Wichita that are doing a lot of cool shit, and the community really likes that and latches onto it and pushes them, boosts them.
For sure. Yeah. I have felt that. Like, despite, like, maybe... can drunk Heather say this word? Ideological, like for having different, like, beliefs than other people. Like, I've always felt like very cared about and supported and like not judged here. And I'm fucking white, so that could be very easy for me. That's a privilege. You know what I mean? But like, people have always been very kind. Like, I live by very old, probably people that vote differently than me, and they are still the kindest, like nicest fucking people. And besides the fact that it's cheap as fuck to live in Kansas, and there's no traffic, and I love the snow, like that's another thing. Like, I've just really found really amazing people out here.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're experiencing it like that. Yeah. And one thing that I've learned talking to people like this too, and you probably know the same thing, is that when you sit down with somebody and you actually talk, we have a lot more in common than you think. Most of our beliefs are going to align, when it comes to treating people a certain way or whatever it might be. Like, we're not that different. Yeah. On TV, on social media, they want you to think we're totally different creatures, right? And I talk to people from all across the board on this podcast, and I've never had any conflicts with anybody. Yeah. And I'm not confrontational to begin with, but it's like, nobody's out to get anybody really, usually when you sit down and talk with them.
And that's like literally what the research shows. The research shows, like, if there was only like a way for us to interact with those people, maybe that we had those thoughts about, like, that's what changes our mind, right? Like, some person on the internet or whatever isn't going to change our mind. And if we only hear a certain thing about someone, that's going to affect us. But if we were actually to interact with people, we would understand that, we're more alike than we are different at the end of the fucking day.
That's why I love this. This is the best way. I'm a huge believer in personal connections, personal face-to-face conversations, stuff like this, Yeah. I'm giddy about it.
Well, then you're in the right field. I mean, do you do something else besides podcasts? Like,
yeah, I'm a cybersecurity engineer.
Oh, okay.
That's what I do full time. This is just kind of something I do for fun. Okay. Yeah. So I don't get that interaction at work. Maybe that's why I like this so much.
Yeah.
All I have is servers and, Hal, the computer, talking to me.
Tech stuff, yeah.
Yeah. What's the best and worst parts about your job that you like or dislike?
best parts is helping other people, making me feel like I am making a difference, that someone, when they come back the next week, tells me how much better they felt after they left. Maybe all I did was listen that day, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I went to school and I have all these interventions, and like, this person left here feeling better. That was amazing. Worst part is the inaccessibility, I feel like, of the fucking insurance companies. Like, yeah, I mean, I think I see a lot of people that have insurance, and I'm glad that it's making me accessible for them, and that just kind of sucks a little bit too, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because one, I get paid less by insurance companies because they're fuckers. And, you know, two, like, a person has to say, like, oh, all of my information is available to my insurance company, you know what I mean? So it kind of sucks a little bit. Like, if you're in a helping field, if you're like a pilot, or if you're like, I don't know, like a firefighter or something, like maybe you want to say something that might be scary for your career,
jeopardize your career.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's hard because I want everyone to have that accessibility, and I know that insurance helps in that way, but it doesn't help them sometimes, and it sure as fuck don't help me because it's wild. I can't talk about, like, it's literally in our contract, we're not allowed to talk about insurance reimbursement rates.
Well, you just said they were fuckers, so
but they're
hopefully that's cool.
Fuckers. I hope that wasn't in my contract. But yeah, I try and do things that offer like pro bono work, and like, you know, so I'm like trying to help the whole full spectrum of stuff, and it's just hard. So I think that was your question. Yes, I love helping people. I hate dealing with insurance.
The pros and cons. And then the last thing I wanted to ask is, what's your advice to people out there that would like to get into the career field that you're in?
Yeah. Well, know that it's not all about the money. Because at first I was like, I'm going to be a fucking doctor. I'm going to make so much money, more than $100,000.
Those loans will be gone in a year.
Oh my gosh, it'll be amazing. Yeah, that's not reality. Like, if you're not passionate about it, don't fucking do it. And if you're passionate about it, do it. Like, talk to people in the field. Really reach out to, I have to burp again. Reach out to people. We love talking to people that want to come into the field, you know what I mean? And I'll be honest and realistic about, like, this is what'll happen and this is what won't happen. And I think, like, yeah, just really being, like, aware of what the reality looks like before going in all fucking Pollyanna and like, I'm going to do good and I'm going to be amazing and I'm going to get all this money. That's not it. And like, you're going to hear sad shit and fucking horrible shit and like all this stuff. Like, so you really should make sure you have your own skills or maybe seeing your own therapist before kind of doing that. But at the end of the day, like, it's worth it.
Yeah,
I think
it's rewarding for you.
It really is. Yeah.
Real quick, what was the school like? How hard was it going through school to become a psychologist, and what does your daily life look like? I know that's two different questions, but
yeah, school was overwhelming, I think. Like, there was a lot. They would give us these syllabi that were like 25 fucking pages long, and there would be just like bajillions of things that you needed to read. They expect you, there is a high expectation of what you should be as a therapist. And so I think like all of those things are great and good, and it makes sense that they're doing that. And so knowing that, but also realizing that like, oh my God, if you didn't do every fucking reading or whatever, like, you'll be okay. It's really like the community that you created at school, like my cohort, the people that graduated with me, like
those relationships you built. And
if I didn't know those
groups.
2 or 3 people, you know, that I've been camping with and, you know, that I still talk to today, even though I'm not in school, like, it would not have been worth it. Like, I wouldn't have been able to do it. So like, school was hard. And if you can find that community, it's doable. And really, all of the teachers are fucking therapists.
Oh, yeah.
So at the end of the day,
true.
Yeah, like, they really, like,
I never even thought about that.
They are all therapists, like, and, you know, like, I had some really fucking horrible shit happen. Like, I mean, I lost people while I was in grad school. I gave birth to both my babies while I was in grad school. I fucking did life.
Yeah.
And so it was like, they were very understanding. At the end of the day, they were understanding. And so hopefully other people have that experience too. Maybe that's not always the case, but thank goodness I had that. And then what was your second question? I missed it.
My second question was really, what does your schedule look like? Are you able to form your own schedule, or do you work a normal 9 to 5?
So that's the fucking thing about, it depends on where you work. It looks so different for everybody.
Yeah.
Right now, like, I am a mom of 2 young kids, and before, when I was on internship and working 40 hours a week, like, I was at work before as my kids were getting to school, and I was working when my kids were getting home. So my husband really, like, pulled a lot of weight for me. Now that I'm in more of a group, like, private practice arena, I've decided, like, I take Mondays off. I don't come into work until 10 o'clock. I drop my kids off every morning. Instead of taking Fridays off and getting a 3-day weekend, I take Mondays off and get a 3-day weekend. But, like, a lot of doctors' offices are closed on Fridays. So it's like, now I can go to the doctor on, like, Monday, or, like, take my kids or whatever. And, yeah, I work from, like, 10 to, because I work a little bit later in the day, I also open my schedule up a little bit later, because also the reality is clients work.
Yeah, that's true.
So how are they going to get therapy?
Right.
So, like, my 5 o'clock slot and my 6 o'clock slot,
always full.
That is the first to go, because people are like, you know, I was seeing my therapist on my lunch break. Like, is that fair? Like, I need to eat, but I also want to, like, make sure I'm healthy so I can help other people, you know? So I think it's going to be different for really everybody that you talk to. But, like, I made a very, what is the fucking word I'm looking for? A very, like...
very conscious effort.
Conscious effort? That's what it was.
That sounds right. I don't know. I'm not good with words.
I was very clear about, like, I wanted 1 day off.
Yeah.
I want to be around my kids. I want to work and still, like, make what I need to make to survive. But I can't be burned out, and I can't be, like, you know, working all day and all night and all weekend and all this and all that. So,
But for somebody that's coming into your field, like, let's say somebody's listening right now and they want to do exactly what you do, they would have the freedom to probably work kind of how they wanted to. They're not going to be locked in to, like, I mean, obviously it differs wherever you work. But
it depends on where you work. Like, if you work at, like, a community mental health or something like that, you might have a 9 to 5.
But you could open your own practice too, right?
Yeah.
Right now you work for a company?
Yeah, right now I work for ICT Therapyworks, and I fucking love it. Like, there is a group of us. We all support each other. We give each other referrals. Like, we are able to really help, like, a total spectrum of people. And, you know, a lot of people's end goal, including my own, is to do our own, like, private work, because then we have, like...
complete freedom, really.
Complete freedom. But with complete freedom comes, like... oh, I have to pay, like, right now.
More responsibilities.
Yeah. Like, right now, people schedule for me and, like, bill the insurance companies for me and, like, talk to, you know what I mean? Or say, like, oh, Heather's not accepting clients. If I were to do that totally, like, solo, it's like, I have to pay someone to, like, put my billing in and do this. And I have to take every call and every email.
Right.
So there's pros and cons everywhere. Some people thrive in group practices. I'm fucking thriving right now. I love it. I love going next door and talking to my friend Marguerite, and just being like, yeah, like, ooh, today was a hard day. You know, there's someone there that understands and knows. And if I was, like, all by myself, it might be a little bit more siloed. So there's, like, the pros and cons to both of them. So, yeah, just know that there's a lot of options at the end of the day. And if this is the work you want to do, then likely you can find something that's really going to be good for you. Yeah.
Well, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. You're such a beautiful person, and you're doing good work out there. You're just as important as a medical doctor and everything else, because the brain health is arguably more important sometimes, right?
Agree.
Because your body might be functioning fine, but if your brain's not functioning properly, then you got some real issues going on there. So thank you for all you do. Thank you for sharing everything that you did and your experience in it. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Yes. Should I look right over there?
Sure. Look right. If you want to look them in their eyes or their souls.
I'm going to look you right into the soul. Yeah, my name's Heather Greenberg, ICT Therapyworks. You could probably Google me. I don't really know. I'm sure Jesse will put like my information like in this thing, but if you're willing to do some work, did I slur? Sorry, I'm drinking. If you're willing to do some
We're
work.
We're under the influence, folks.
Yeah. I'm willing to do it with you. And yeah.
Hell yeah.
There's that.
And all that stuff is in my description. It's on my social media posts, the links to their website, to her social medias and website. So, yeah, once again, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Cool.
I had a good time.
Me too.
And we went an hour and 45 minutes.
Fuck.
Crazy, right?
And I finished 3
I
beers.
did too.
I gotta pee.
All right. Thank you, Heather. Cheers.
Bye, y'all. Thank you. Woo.